So we've been talking about this for a while, Trump's tariffs, and what happens if the Supreme Court rules against Trump. I'll just tell you a simple answer. There's going to be a fight over the money. It's going to be a complete mess. What else is new under Trump, right? And this was a discussion in Bloomberg, which I want to go over with you. If Trump's tariffs are ruled illegal, businesses expect refund chaos. Oh, God. And this is a real possibility. I think the Supreme Court said they were going to expedite this hearing. There's all sorts of stuff going on with Trump. He tries to pull off so many illegal things. In these situations, though, when you're pissing off a lot of people involving a lot of money in Trump businesses, I just think if he, doesn't return the money, there'll be lawsuits all over the place. And if you got the Supreme Court ruling against you, I mean, look out. So let's see what we got here. President Donald Trump has warned of disaster, that's come from Trump, disaster, if the Supreme Court overturns his signature tariffs. For starters, it would unleash a bureaucratic nightmare involving reams of refund paper checks. Paper checks? Oh, God. You know it's going to be Trump like, hey, I meant to send the check. It's in the mail. I mean, take out the... And I keep wondering where the money's going. A lot of people keep asking that, where's the tariff money going? Trump, at the moment, they've been talking about, let's send the money to the farmers. That's what they've been saying. We also know we want to bail out Argentina. And we also know Trump's been asking Korea and Japan for cash. So it's all this, the cup game, the shuffle, I guess where the ball is. Should Trump's country-based tariffs be deemed illegal, the U.S. could owe the bulk of $165 billion, so we're talking a lot of money here, in custom duties collected so far this fiscal year back to companies that paid them. But my first thought is, what if that money's gone, right? I mean, the way money and combines with Trump's things kind of disappear. I'm real curious on that. Now, theoretically, maybe that's why Trump wants to control the Fed and just get the printers going. That's certainly a possibility. That was my other thought. But they won't have an easy time getting their money back. Refunds are typically issued slowly with paper checks. And while the administration could streamline the process, I don't think that's going to happen. I doubt that. To repay the fund en masse, experts fear that's unlikely. Yes, I agree with that. So I guess I am an expert here. I agree. It won't be fast. Paper checks, guys. And remember, we had a situation too with Trump to defund everything. Now the USPS is in a different situation than the rest of the government. So to my knowledge, they're still in functioning. But you never know with Trump. I know Elon was trying to get involved with the post office stuff. So for reals, it's always something crazy going on. Trump has coveted the revenue from tariffs, right? He covets everything. You guys know that. He's the guy who covets. Saying they have made the country, quote, very rich again. That's according to Trump. We're all getting rich. The president and his allies have floated using the money to carry out policy objectives, including paying down the national debt. I personally think that's never going to happen. That's my opinion on that one. Funding aid for beleaguered farmers. I think there's a possibility of that. So, I mean, well, the thing is, though, Trump giving money to people when he's trying to make cuts to, say, Social Security or disability. Okay, we'll put that at a possibility, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I need this stuff. And perhaps even cutting so-called rebate checks for Americans. No, I wouldn't count on that. This stage of the game, I mean, Trump's probably like, you know what, I got that tariff money. Let's keep building that ballroom. Now the other thing too, like the government shut down. He's like, you know what, we're still going to build the ballroom. That means Trump likely won't part with the funds easily if the tariffs are struck down. And the administration is expected to move quickly to reimpose levies using other legal authorities if that happens. Again, a big fight. So it's kind of like if there's a ruling against Trump, they'll go to his advisor and say, okay, how can we figure out a way to circumvent the power of the courts? And then he'll start tweeting about how much he hates the judges, etc. The Supreme Court expected to hear arguments in the case, arguments in November, so coming up. This is a chart here. It says more than half of the Trump's tariff revenue at risk of refund. So it's all the ones in yellow here, I guess. So this would be the imports of other countries, Mexico imports, Canada imports, and China and Hong Kong imports. So quite a lot. Some stuff may still be protected by the Supreme Court. And just, because some tariffs, it doesn't mean necessarily all the tariffs are completely unjustified by Trump. Or I guess another way to say it would be, it doesn't mean necessarily all tariffs are out of his, legal, you call it jurisdiction, you want to call it, or bounds. So they're saying these ones right here, the ones in the yellow, I think is what they were talking about here. And the number they gave before was at 156 billion, 165 billion is the money we're talking about. Customs isn't just going to hand importers a bunch of money. That's coming from, was that Ernst & Young? Global trade partner, okay. The suspense over whether and how refunds might be issued marks the latest example of uncertainty that gripped companies and financial markets since Trump launched his tariff regime. So a lot of companies, they cannot plan for the future, be it with their orders or their hiring. Some try to get ahead of the tariffs, right? And so they put in a bunch of orders ahead of the tariffs. Now they're not doing anything. And we're all kind of wait and see. Guys, it's crazy. Some importers are writing off the possibility of ever getting their money back if the court rules in their favor. So even if they win, some people are thinking, I'm not getting it back. Wow, what does this person say? I have zero faith we've ever get anything, just zero. Okay, that's coming from Harley Sittner, owner of Peace Vans, a classic camper van repair and restoration shop in Seattle. So that'd be more like a smaller business, I believe. So they don't, he has zero faith in it. That's Harley. For Sittner, the unpredictability of Trump's trade is worse than paying the duties, which he considers a sunk cost. After receiving a string of surprise tariff bills, yeah, that's never a surprise that you want, totaling anywhere from $221 to $17,000. Jeez, that's crazy. And it's always good to hear what it's like to be on the ground when you're dealing with, Trump policies. So just imagine you get a bill, surprise, you owe 17 grand to the government. Great. Sometimes months after the goods were received, so that is a surprise. Sittner recently stopped bringing in overseas inventory. Yeah, you just can't plan for it all. Just yesterday, and then the other problem is sometimes there are goods that you cannot get in USA. Like you just can't get it. The one I always use example is like coffee beans. But there's a lot of stuff. It could be various auto parts, depending on what thing you need. Various machine costs. There's all kinds of stuff that are come from outside the USA that you just can't get in the USA, right? The way things are made, the way supply chains are. This person, they're involved with, some sort of vans, camper vans. All right, let's just say here, just yesterday we got a small shipment from Germany worth $2,324, and it came with a $1,164 tariff charge. That is so crazy. We can't back out, so they ordered the thing, and then surprise, that is a massive tariff. Jeez. So you're an order for about $2,300, and you had a tariff of $1,100 about. Some custom brokers have said they've been contacted by Wall Street firms interested in buying claims to refunds, and I've heard Lutnick's kids are into this stuff, betting on whether or not the refunds are going to happen, which would allow importers to recoup at least a fraction of the money they might be owed. Paper checks, okay? Most of the jump in customs duties up $95 billion from the year before is thanks to Trump's levies on imports from dozens of economies that went into effect in August, okay? Two lower courts have already ruled Trump was not permitted to impose tariffs under the law. He cited, so already he's had a couple rulings against him, and they call it IEEPA, or the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So Trump basically has to say everything's an emergency, and then therefore he can put tariffs. That's the whole thing. And then you're always like wondering, like, so okay, how is this particular country an emergency? Say we'll use the example of Australia. If U.S. has a surplus with them, it doesn't make sense. That's the point. This stuff usually doesn't make sense when Trump says it. And I think this is the biggest frustration that everyone has. It's like, how is Congress or the courts, how are they letting Trump get away with this illegal stuff like day after day after day? It feels like we should just expedite, get rid of this guy right away. That's just my opinion on these things. It just can't let some people do so many illegal stuff and just remove them from office, right? Okay. Roughly half of the custom duties the U.S. has collected this year could be refunded. The Supreme Court upholds those rulings, and thus far, it's unclear what businesses would need to do to get their money back. Get my money back. Even though the government is shut down, agencies have continued most operations related to tariffs, right? So You still got to pay the tariff money, even though the government shut down. And Trump's mostly like basically the government's turned into, from Trump's point of view, hey, we want more tariff money from you, taxes, right? And we want more ICE people out to arrest people, etc. U.S. Customs and Border Protection routinely approve refunds to importers who overpay, okay? Or in the case of rule changes, and then the Treasury Department cuts the checks, but it isn't automatic, and the Treasurer would be Besant. And he always tries to pretend that that other countries are paying it, right? But, the importers have to write the check to this stuff. And they want to get a check back, of course. Importers or custom brokers on their behalf must choose the right process based on a strict and sometimes unclear timeline, then file the right paperwork on a strict schedule in order to preserve their right to a refund. So it's important to have a clear paper trail on this stuff because you're dealing with so much money and there could be a refund. So then the custom brokers are under a lot of stress and pressure in these jobs, absolutely. And sometimes it's unclear of like what is a country origin of a particular product. So because you want to make sure you do the paperwork correctly on that, because the rates could be different, the rules could be different. On top of that, the vast majority of refunds are still issued by paper check. That's crazy. While the Trump administration earlier this year required Treasury to phase out check payments by September 30th, CBP only rolled out the first step last Tuesday and was expected to be a multi-stage process. So they're slow walking it. And then when the government's closed, but they're saying they're still open, this part of the government. But if it's anything to do with Trump giving you back your money, he'll try to figure out to make it as slow as possible, I'm sure. Without a concerted effort to speed things up, that's not going to happen. The system is unlikely to be ready in time for a court ruling. Because of that, if refunds occur, it's possible that we'll see millions and millions of paper checks being mailed out because each shipment, each customs entry will have its own. Oh no. So I guess even if you're getting a refund, you would, a company would get multiple checks regarding, various shipments. This is crazy. The White House did not respond for requests for comment, and CPP declined to comment. Of course they did. Mail theft. Oh wow, people could steal. Stuff that people think about. I didn't even thought about this one. Wow. Yeah, this is a mess. This is a massive mess. Mail theft, that could get messy. Customs will only send refunds to approved domestic banks in dollars, okay? So foreign importers could only get their refunds via international mail or via broker's account in the U.S. There's also been a spree of stolen checks over the past few years where refund checks were diverted in the mail and then sold on the dark web before getting cashed. Oh, that's going to get ugly. That'll be ugly. There are ways for the administration to speed up refunds, including by processing claims automatically based on data already in the system. CP has streamlined refunds before, but doesn't mean they're going to do it again. Custom agents built a system more easily issue refunds for goods that qualified for duty exemptions under a program called the Generalized System of Preferences, which Congress has let lapse. Of course they did. Like when you read through this stuff, you can see how broken our system is. You could say unfunded, broken, or purposely slow-walked, or purposely archaic. You can see it in this stuff. And I'm sure if you work in this area, it must be extremely frustrating. And I remember there was an article before about the importer brokers, how much stress they have, and they have like this crazy, really large paper book that they got to go through all the time. Okay, so I guess we let this thing lapse several times. Wow. Since the 1980s before retroactively renewing it. Great. Importers would include certain codes that alerted customs the goods should qualify for GSP, even when the program wasn't technically active. The agency could mine its own data in similar way, this time to identify tariffs paid under relevant IEPA codes, right? So you got to figure out which ones would be eligible for refund or not. Bureaucratic hopes. Of course, there are ways the administration could make things more difficult on top of the paper check and the chaos. Some experts say each importer may ultimately have to file their own lawsuit. Yeah, see, I told you guys about the lawsuit stuff to get their money back. Wow. Importers could be required to file what's called a protest or post-summary correction. So I guess if you're in the importer tariff lawsuit lawyer business, you're going to be quite busy coming soon, chances are. along with proof of every payment made and copies of all the importer data the government already has. Oh God. Well, you know, with Trump's government, you just never know. Make sure you keep copies of everything. Keep them in multiple places, hard copy, paper copy, right? Plus digital, I guess. EY's Brown has advised importers to save, yep, that's literally what I was just saying. Importers to save all data from CBP's automated commercial environment platform and log each entry date and other deadlines in order to boost their chance of getting money back. Even if CBP went the easy route, the layers of financial transactions along with supply chain will complicate things. Yeah, to be fair, you want to make sure this is money, so you want to make sure you have everything right. For importers using commercial couriers, including FedEx and the UPS, to handle paperwork and tariff payments on their behalf, CBP would issue the refund to the importer of record. That's the parcel handler rather than the owner of the goods. Okay, so then they have to deal with a bunch of paperwork, then FedEx and UPS, I guess. That could create issues between the actual importers and the couriers, another potential barrier for businesses to get their money back. So that is the crazy mess / chaos that looks like if the tariffs are ruled illegal by the Supreme Court. Wanted to share this with you. Please share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.